Okay, so what we're gonna look at is the Bank of the United States. Do y'all remember what guy created this bank? Bless you. Alexander Hamilton. Was it even in the Constitution? No. We're gonna see he creates this using some clause, and it's not Santa Claus. The elastic clause, which allows us to do what with the Constitution? Stretch it, right? It allows Congress to do more than what is explicitly stated. So it actually happens in 1791. There's a person who really hates this bank. Do y'all remember that guy that opposed the bank? Thomas Jefferson, because he believed in what type of interpretation? Strict. And so we see that this is not a forever bank. It has to be rechartered every 20 years. And so there are 25 branches. It is kind of like the Fed we have today. Have you ever heard of the Federal Reserves in Dallas? It is one that actually the Fed, if you look at your dollars, which I don't have dollars, my dollar took my last dollar today. If you look on your dollars, it's going to say Federal Reserve Note. Right? Does it say at the top, it says bank note or Federal Reserve Note?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Federal Reserve.
Federal Reserve Note. And so back then, you see all these green dollars, which is going to come out from the Civil War. That's where we get our greenbacks. But at this time, the bank used to publish little notes that look exactly like this, but they're white. Okay? And so it published dollar bills, it published coins. And so at the branches, they would make sure that every bank, for every dollar that they would publish, what would they have backing it?
Gold.
Gold. We have the gold standard all the way up until Richard Nixon in the 1970s. We used to be able to back our money in gold. Today our money is not backed in gold, because if Mackenzie went up to the bank with that and they asked her, can I have my gold for my dollars, they would look at her kind of funny, right? But back then, many people used to have just the dollars. Why would you think they would rather carry the dollars around versus the gold? It's not as heavy, right? Just imagine carrying around gold.
Could you hold more of it?
You could hold more dollars, right, than gold. And so we're going to see the function of the bank, which is question 21 on our study guide. The function of the bank is to basically be the federal depository. So the federal government is going to have 80%, that's for 21. The purpose of the bank is the principal depository of our government. This bank, of everything that's in it, 80% of the money that's in this bank belongs to the United States. So is this a very powerful bank? Yes, they're putting all their money in this bank. So what's going to happen to the smaller banks? Are they going to be as powerful as the bus? And that's why people criticize it. So the purpose of the bank, it's the principal depository. It also holds private deposits. Remember how much of the government's money was in there? 80%. So the other 20% that makes up the bank is from private deposits. It's going to pay the government's expenses. So this is all of 21, A, B, C, D. It's going to pay the government. So anytime the government owed, how many of y'all have gotten like an income tax in April? The government gave you back money. That's what they do. They pay the government's expenses, what it owes to people. Do we owe money to foreign countries? Yes, and it would pay that out. The fourth thing, which we just looked at, was the notes. The federal government actually had banknotes. These banknotes, do you think they're going to be valuable?
Yes.
Yes, because this bank doesn't have a lot of money.
Yes.
And so what would happen with Pronto Bank just across the corner here? Do you think Pronto Bank, I'm just making up a bank, do you think their dollar bills would have a lot of value? No, because this one has a lot more what? Money. Okay, so we're going to see these are the four functions of the bank. We're going to see the banknotes they're going to issue. People are going to recognize them. Are they going to be more valuable than other banks?
Yes.
We're going to see these all both notes are going to be backed by species, which sounds a little weird, right? But all species means is gold and silver. So Mackenzie could take up her dollars back in the day and ask for what? Gold. But did she want to carry that around? No, because she would be a lot heavier with all that gold around. So the dollar bill is a lot lighter. It also created a uniform medium exchange. We're going to see it restrained state banks. So Pronto Bank here, it had to make sure that all of its paper money had what backing it? Gold. We also see that it made them redeem a large amounts of their notes in gold. So do you think these banks are going to be very happy?
No.
And the last thing, it was the most powerful barrier against inflation. Because what did a bank have to have in their vault for every dollar they printed out? Gold. And once we kill the Bank of the United States, is there anything monitoring these banks that they have gold? So what's going to happen? Inflation, and this is why we get to the Panic of 1837. So what we're going to look at the second part of 21 is who is the president of this bank? Who was Nicholas Biddle? He's basically the president of the BUS, the Bank of the United States. Is he a very powerful man?
Yes.
Because his bank holds whose money? The government, right? Which the government's money, who did they get that money from?
People.
The people. And we're going to see the reason why he's considered a hydra of corruption is because he gets to decide who gets loans. Who do you think he's going to decide? The very rich or a common man farmer? The rich. And that's why he's looked at the second part of our question. He says, why would many think the BUS was a hydra of corruption? Because Nicholas Biddle decided who gets loans, and he's going to only give it to the rich. The next thing is he's going to set the interest rate. Do y'all want a high interest rate or do y'all want a low interest rate? Low. Because if you pay a low interest rate, right, is the bank charging you much? No. But let's just say they come to you saying 10%. Do you want to pay 10% interest? No. Do you want to pay like 3%?
Yes.
Yes. So he sets the interest rate. So who do you think he's going to charge a low interest rate to?
Rich.
The rich. Who do you think he's going to charge a high interest rate to? The poor. And so this is why many people feel that Nicholas Biddle and the Bank of the United States is corrupt. Because who are they going to lend to? Who are they going to give preferential treatment to?
Rich.
The rich. Okay, so do y'all get the second part of 21? So Henry Clay, and I'm going to talk about Henry Clay and them bringing up this issue later. What we're going to look at is the people who oppose the BUS. We're going to see owners of state banks. Why would they hate the BUS? What is the BUS going to make sure that they have on hand? Gold, so they could print out that paper money, right? So that's one group of people who don't like the BUS because they're going to say that they cannot expand. The other ones are debtors. Okay, when I think of a debtor, you have to owe money, right? So let me just explain. My mom, when she originally bought her house in the 1970s with my dad, they bought a house that was worth $35,000. Okay, that house today, when we look at 2018, is worth $250,000. Did they pay more for that house? What has happened to the value of that house? It's gone up. It's inflated because prices gone up. But my parents, did they have to pay $250,000 for that house? What did they have to pay? But my mom and my dad's an engineer, my mom's a teacher, right? What happened to their pay from the 70s to 2018? It went up. So my mom retired as a teacher at $75,000. My dad is an engineer. He's retired at $100,000. Do you think they originally started at that amount? My mom, as a teacher, back in 1970, was making $21,000. Okay? My dad, as an engineer, was making $40,000. But what has happened to their income? It's gone up. But did their price of their home go up?
Yeah.
Did their mortgage every month go up? They said, okay, inflation has happened.
No.
My parents, the Perez family, you're going to have to pay more. Did they go to them every month when inflation happened? No, because they had a mortgage payment, right? And this mortgage payment was actually $250 a month. They had to pay for that house. So all the way up to $2,000, they were paying $250, right? But could this price have gone up for them? Yes, but did it?
No.
So do my parents, I want us to look at this. Do they like when inflation happens?
Yes.
Because what happens to their pay?
Goes
It goes up, but their debt stays what?
Down.
Down. So debtors, you will like this when you go to college and you buy your first home. Because what's going to happen, I know I'm talking about the future, you're going to get into a job that is going to clear you about 50, 60,000. What is going to happen with your income because of inflation? It's going to go up, but let's just say you buy that first home. Is your house payment going to go up? No, because month to month you're going to pay the same amount, right? Do you like inflation?
Yeah.
In the long run you do, right? But in the short run, do you? No, because the price of gas goes up, the price of bread goes up, all that other stuff. But does your debt go up? No. And so this is why I think about all those farmers. Are they in debt? Yes, they had to buy plows, they had to mortgage their house, they had to mortgage for their land. But if inflation happens, are they going to get more money? And so they get more money, but what happens to their debt? It stays the same. And what you'll learn about this next year in macroeconomics. So you, short run, do you like inflation? No, because what happens to price? It goes up, right? I keep on thinking about people who bring up taco, Jack in the Box and the tacos there. They used to be 99 cents, and now it's $1.29 for 2 tacos. Okay, so has inflation, right? There used to be a 99 cents menu at McDonald's. Is there a 99 cents menu at McDonald's? No, and a lot of their portions got smaller because of inflation. I keep on thinking right now, one of the biggest arguments is that fast food employees should get how much an hour? They get $7.25 an hour. Have you heard the argument that they should get $15 an hour? Yes. Yo, there was this big thing 2 years. Okay, but why do you think they're saying that? Because what's happening to prices? They're going up, right? And if prices are going up, shouldn't your pay go up? This is going to be a concept you will learn next year in macroeconomics called the wage price spiral. Okay? But if now, let's just say your income goes from $7.25 to $15. Do you now have more money to pay off your debt?
Yeah.
So do you like inflation when it affects your wages?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Daniel, you have a question.
Why straight to $15 and not just like?
Because they're saying if we look at the proportion of how much a CEO's money has gone up, it is about 400% that their income has gone up since 2000. And so if you just give a cost of living adjustment, which is called a COLA, okay, if you just pay people what it is to be able to afford a living, a standard of living, that's why they said it should go from $7.25 to $15. Okay, and this is why many people looked at Bernie the last time. They were like, no, Bernie, no. But did you see all the people who follow Bernie Sanders? They're young people who are they affected by that? Right? But in the long run, inflation, does it help debtors? Yes. Do you think it helps the banks? No, because banks are going to be like, I paid them in dollars and they're paying me back in pennies now. Okay, so banks don't like inflation. But debtors do, because your pay will go what?
Up.
And your debt stays what?
The same.
The same. Also the new business class. They did not like the bank because do you think the bank's going to loan to them? And so we see they don't like the bus. So we're going to see that there's a lot of people who are against it. If I looked at my regions, what 2 regions are going to be against the bus? The South and the West. They felt the bus was a monopoly because it only lent to who? The rich. They said they disliked Biddle favoring the privileged class. They also disliked foreign ownership because when the foreigners wanted to get their money, what's going to happen to the bank? They're going to pull their money out, and what's going to happen to the bank? Is it going to stay high or is it going to stay low?
Stay low.
Low, and it's going to impact the economy. And we're going to see that y'all also read the Jackson reading, right? Jackson had some issues with the bank. Didn't he almost lose all his fortune? Yes. We're going to see he's going to look at the bank and say it's unconstitutional because how was it created? What interpretation? Loose. It was never there. And he says regardless of what the Supreme Court has said, this bank is unconstitutional. So what will happen? I'm going to pull my study guide back out. Do y'all now understand why people are critics of the bank? Okay, so what we're gonna look at is question 25 on our study guide. I know I'm jumping around, not 25. I'm gonna look at 23, that's what I meant to look at on our study guide. What was Jackson's stance on the bus? I just read it. Was he for it or against it? Against it because he believed it was what? Unconstitutional. What we're going to see is Jackson will eventually kill the bus. What does that do to the power of the presidency? It expands it, and you should have it amplify the power of the presidency. That's for 23. So what I'm going to be looking at is 24. Not 24, 22. So we're going to see the dispute over the bus begin before the election of 1832. So 22, it says, why did Henry Clay and Daniel Webster push for the recharter? They wanted to make it an election issue. They introduced the bill early to make it, here's the answer for 22, an election issue. All right, do y'all see on 22 it says, why did Henry Clay and Daniel Webster push for the recharter to make it an election issue? So let's look at this. What area would be for the Bank of the United States? The North. Which area would be against it?
Southwest.
So, but Henry Clay and Daniel Webster are going to have a skewed view of America. They said, if we make this an election issue, Jackson's going to veto it and we'll win the election. Wait, does the North have a lot of people to be able to trump these two? They have big cities, right? They have more states. So is this kind of like is it a scary issue to bring up and you may win or you may lose? But in their minds, they're going to win because most of the North is going to support it. But everybody in the North, do you think they're going to really support it? What type of people in the North do you think are going to support it? The rich. And what's going to happen to our laborers and farmers? Are they going to support it?
No.
So we're going to see Jackson, it's going to come up before the election. The Senate votes to keep it. The House votes to keep it. It gets to Jackson, and he vetoes it. Why does he veto it? Think about what areas he comes from. Do they like it? They're farmers, and does the bus hurt them? He prefers state banks. Does he even think that this is constitutional? No, but Henry Clay and Daniel Webster are like, hooray, he's done this, he'll never win the election. But does he win?
Yeah.
Because was the Bank of the United States popular with the people?
No.
No, a lot of people hated it. So let's look at a couple of things about this election. We know it comes up. We know he's going to pass it. It only alienates New England. Who in New England, the rich or the poor? Okay, because most of the rich like it. He signs the bill, it would alienate his followers, and would he win? Would he win the election if he alienated his followers?
No.
No. So what we're going to see is I got to look at question 24. What is the significance of the campaign of 1832? We get a third party comes in, the anti-Masonic. Have you ever heard of the Masons?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very elite group, right? And Jackson's actually a part of that group. He's part of that group, and so by saying that they're anti-Masonic, they're actually anti-who?
British.
Jackson, okay? They're anti-Jackson. So what is the significance? Is there's a third party, and you have to understand third parties. Are third parties ever going to win? But third parties are going to bring up issues that no one wants to touch. They bring up issues and they take votes away from the two main parties. Are the two main parties going to have to take on this issue now?
Yes.
And then what's going to happen to the third party?
Gonna get cut.
It's going to get cut because they took on other ideas. So that's the purpose of third parties. Have you ever heard of the Green Party?
Yes.
The Green Party they've come out in a lot of elections. They want to make America more carbon friendly, right? Okay, so do you think the Democrats and the Republicans were forced to take on some of those ideas?
Yes.
And so does the Green Party very powerful today? No. Okay, so we're going to see that this is the first time that we have a third party. The story of a third party, they bring up an issue. the two parties take on the issue, and what happens to the third party? It dies, it goes away. So what's gonna happen is we get nominating conventions. Do y'all remember 2 years ago in August, Trump got elected by the Republicans, right? Who did the Democrats elect at their nominating convention? Hillary, right? That is what a nominating convention is, which is the second part of it's the first part of 25. The purpose of a national nominating convention is to name the candidate. Okay, right now, are we seeing people that are going to try to run in 2020?
Yes.
For the Democrats, who have we heard? Y'all know this one, Elizabeth Warren. Oh, you probably heard of Trump calling her Pocahontas. Okay, yeah, you know her. She's saying that I may go out there, but is she going to be nominated yet? No, because it isn't until 2019 that the Democrats will come around and they'll choose who their nominee is. The Republicans, a lot of them are saying who's going to be their nominee in 2019 for 2020. Trump. Okay, but can it possibly be in 2019 that they choose someone else? So before we had nominating conventions, who do you think got to decide for the party? Do you think it was the rich or the poor? The rich. So the nominating conventions now give power to who? The common man who's a part of the party. Okay, so do y'all get the purpose of nominating conventions? It's giving more power to who? The common people. Okay, so they're also going to come up with platforms. I don't know if you know what platforms are, but this is their stances, right? So we're going to see this with Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke tonight, right? They're going to get out, they're going to have, they're having a town hall meeting where they're talking about their platforms. Ted Cruz, what does he say about taxes? High or low? Low. Beto, he's saying what? What is Ted Cruz on his platform on immigration? Should we let them in or keep them out? What is Beto's? Let them in. Okay, so do y'all see what a platform is? It's a stance. Because we get these nominating conventions, we're going to get platforms. What are people's stances? Okay, do y'all feel good on 25 now? Okay, so we're going to see this is Clay versus Jackson. Jackson has done what to the bank? He's destroyed it. And so the bus is the campaign issue. Jackson won because he vetoed the recharter. And he took this as a mandate from the people that he needed to kill the bus. Okay? And this is number 26 on your study guide. Why did Jackson remove the federal deposits from the bus? He took it as the mandate from the people to destroy the bank. Because the people voted him in, that means they must like his platform, which is what? No bank. What is Clay's platform on the bank? Keep the bank, right? But because Jackson's elected on 26, he's going to take this as a mandate from the people to kill the bus. So the way you kill the bus is what? How do you kill a bank? What does a bank have in it that would kill it?
Money.
Take the money out. So on October 1st, 1833, we're going to see he's going to withdraw the government funds. Whoa, what's going to happen to that bank? He has taken 80% of their wealth out. The bank is going to go bankrupt because it only, well, not fully bankrupt. Does it have some money in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, private investors, but what's going to happen to the value of their notes?
They're
They're
gonna go down.
going to go down because they've lost what in their bank?
Money.
Money. Is this going to send us into an economic chaos?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going to remove that money and he's going to put them in pet banks. And this was number 28 on our study guide. What a pet bank is where the government place funds in. Okay, I always like to think about pet banks, and there's another phrase you know about pets. Teacher's pets. So a teacher's pet, do they follow the rules or not follow the rules? Do they suck up to the teacher?
Yeah.
Are they willing to do anything to get to that teacher and suck up? Hey, so these pet banks, who do you think they're sucking up to? Jackson. Do you think they're going to follow the rules? To some extent, but do you think they're going to go a little crazy knowing that they have Jackson's affection? Okay, so a pet bank is where Jackson put the surplus funds, and we're going to see these pet banks Do they have anybody overlooking it now?
No.
There's no rules to follow, so are they going to go crazy? And we're going to see they're going to spend money on Western lands. Is that safe? No, because they think they could buy all this land and earn a lot of money, but do they earn it?
No.
So what do they have to issue to buy this land? Not taxes. They want to buy the land, so what do they have to issue to buy the land? Not gold, but what?
Money.
Paper money. They're going to make loans. They're going to give loans to the government, to the state government. So what do they have to create to give those loans? They're going to give loans. They say, you could take this money out, and they give them what? Paper money. What has just happened to the supply of paper money here? What has happened? Do they make more money or less money?
More or less.
They gave out loans, right? So people want what now?
More.
Paper money. So what has happened to the supply of money? It's gone up. That's the second part. With them giving out loans for lands and loans for internal improvements, the amount of paper money has gone up. What should they have backing that money? Gold. But who is not looking at them backing up this gold? The states. Who's supposed to guard to make sure that the gold has paper money backing it? The bus, but what has happened to its power? It's gone because what did Jackson do with the money? Took it out. So is there anybody watching what value our paper money has? So they're going to produce tons of paper money. And what's going to happen to the value? They produce tons of money, nothing backing it, so what happens to the value? It goes down. Is that good?
No.
Okay. Do y'all understand what they're doing on 28? They're issuing what? And what's happening to the value? It's going down. So, amidst all of this, the economic actions, is Biddle realizes, is his bank valuable? No, because it's lost whose deposits? The government. And so Biddle feels lost because his bank has lost a lot of value. And so what he's going to do on number 27 is Biddle is going to call in loans. He's going to call in loans. So that's 27. He's going to go to all these rich or poor people?
Rich.
Rich, because the bank only lent to who? So he goes to Evan. He says, hey, Evan, I know you had a loan for your shipping industry. You need to pay that back in full today. Can Evan pay that back? So he needs to go sell all his assets off so he could be able to pay stuff, right? Garrett, who's a very rich farmer, they have loaned to him. He has a cotton plantation. For him to be able to pay back his loan, what must he do with all his cotton? Sell it. What happens when he puts all of his cotton on the market? What happens to the price of cotton? Goes down. Evan, who sold all his shipping stuff, what happens to the price of shipping? It goes down. Okay, Anthony, who is, I don't know, he's selling cattle. And he had a huge loan. He's a big cattle farmer. And they say, you have to pay your $100,000 loan today. What does he have to do with all his cattle? What happens to the price of that cattle? And so we are seeing, are we having an expansion of our economy that's going up, or are we having a contraction of our economy? Just because Jackson has moved the money out of where? The bank. And so we're going to see, to pay off all these debts, he's going to call in the loans. Who is going to hurt who? The rich or the poor? The rich first, and I'm going to talk about how it hurts the poor. He's going to raise the interest rates. Who's he going to raise the interest rates on? Who goes to his bank? The rich. So are Evan, Anthony, and Garrett happy? No. The other thing, so that y'all get 27, he calls in those loans. Are the rich now freaking out? Okay, we're going to see the U.S. government is going to do a couple of other things. It's going to pay off its debt. We're going to see Congress is going to pay money to the states. And the states are going to spend that. What's happening to all this money? It's disappearing, right? And when we pay off everything, what is going to happen to our money supply? Is it going to be big or is it going to be small?
Small.
And this is what's going to lead us into our panic. So Congress realizes Things are not going good, right? What is happening to our supply of gold?
Contracting.
It's contracting. And so Congress on 29 is going to pass the Specie Circular Act. Because remember, the bank was giving out loans, but they were giving out paper money, right? Was that paper money backed in gold?
No.
So the government's going to say that the state banks and the pet banks are unreliable. That if anybody wants to buy federal land, they cannot do it with the banknotes, because these banknotes, are they worth something or are they worth less? And they said they must pay hard money, species, gold and silver. So if people are going to buy land, what is going to happen to our money supply? Is it going to grow or is it going to shrink? It's going to shrink. What have we been doing to the money supply since we moved it out of the pet bank, out of the bank into the pet banks? What happened to the money supply? We spent it, so it shrunk. And then we called in loans. What happened to the money supply? It shrunk. And then we invested in land speculation, internal improvements, and what has happened to the money supply? It shrunk. Now, to add the foreign issue. Remember, many people did not like the foreign ownership of the bank. Well, these foreigners are looking at the U.S. economy, and is it going up or is it going down? And does anybody want to invest in America when your economy is going down? So many of these foreign banks are going to say, oh gosh, things are not looking good in America, and they're going to call in their loans. Do you think they're loaning to the pet banks or the Bank of the United States?
Bank of the United States.
And they call the Bank of the United States saying, hey, we want our money back. Does Biddle even have money in there? So how does he get money to pay off these loans? Who does he have to call? More rich people. He's saying, Aston, you need to pay stuff. Grant, you need to pay stuff. Jacob, by the end of this week, you have to pay back your loan in full. So what do, these rich guys?
So
They sell their stuff. And we're going to see they call, let's just say they're in New Orleans, and they call the cotton broker saying, you have to pay this back. The cotton broker puts his cotton on the market. What happens to the value of that cotton? It goes down, right? And we're going to see the cotton planter sell more of his cotton, and he's going to sell his slaves at a high cost or a low cost. And we're going to see, because there's too much supply, we're going to pay off our foreign debt. What has happened to the money supply in America? It's gone down even further. So the supply of gold is dwindling. Do y'all remember a question? I can't remember what it said. Question. I'm on the wrong part of my study guide. Question 32, the causes of the Panic of 1837. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, here's 5. And I'm going to keep on going. The crops. Are crops going for a high price or a low price? And the other thing that happens is that people do not want to buy American crops. So if they're not buying American crops, our supply of gold is dwindling even further. Okay. And I know there was a lot of things in the middle there on the other side, but that's 7 to 10. So now what's going to happen, what we're going to see is Jackson is out as president. Jackson is no longer president, but it's Martin Van Buren. Martin Van Buren realizes, did Jackson do a good thing when he took the gold out of the bank?
no.
So what he's going to do is the divorce scheme. He's going to say the government will no longer put money in banks. So who are they going to go to? No, they're not going to go to large banks. They're not going to go to small
They're
banks.
gonna go to the federal bank.
They're not going to go to a federal bank. What they're going to do is, have you ever heard of the place called Fort Knox?
Yep.
They're going to create all these forts, and underneath these forts are going to be these vaults that gold is going to be in. That's why Fort Knox is the most valuable one. They're going to put all of this money under the ground. Does that help the economy? No, because the moment you put money in a bank, what could a bank do? Lend it out, and does that allow our economy to grow? Yes. But by doing this, what is going to happen to the economic growth? He just puts all that money under the ground. Does our economy grow or does it shrink even further? Okay, so this divorce scheme really ruins our economy. And we're going to see that this divorce scheme, it only lasts for a year. And this is on our study guide on question 33. 33 says, describe the independent treasury. What is he doing? He's separating the banks and the government. Where's he putting all this money? Underground in forts, right? Do you think that this is going to last? It only lasts a year because what is going to happen to our economy? It's going to contract, and he realized it. Should we put our money in banks? Yes, and that's why it only lasts a year. I know we've learned a lot of bad things about what's going on. So, remember the 7 to 10 characteristics of the Panic of 1837 that we saw in 32? Here's the rest of it. I know I've listed a lot, but now we're going to go into a panic. The banks are going to dry up. There's not going to be species. What is species? Gold and silver. People can't even redeem their notes in gold and silver. So what has happened to the value of paper money? It's gone down. Most other banks are following. So we're going to see banks collapse. So what happens to your money that you have in the bank? If the bank falls apart? It's gone. We have nothing to protect you at this time. Prices are going to fall. Is this good for all of us? No, because what's going to happen to your wages? Wages are going to go what? Down. Big businesses, are they going to hire everybody? People are now going to be, factories are going to close, and then unemployment's going to happen. All of this panic stemmed from Jackson's actions of doing what? Removing the money out of the bank. At first, he was only hurting the rich, right? But now, who is he hurting? The common man. But is anybody around to blame Jackson? Who are they blaming? Themselves. They're blaming Martin Van Buren. Okay, so do y'all get the independent treasury bill? It only lasts for what? 1 year, because do we need that gold in our money supply? Okay, so the effect of this is that our government funds cannot be used as reserves. Available credit shrinks. And now everybody, what party do they not like? Jackson is what? A Democrat or a Whig? Democrat. They don't like the Democrats. And this is why we have the rise of the Whig Party, which we've talked about. The Whigs are anti-monarchy, right? And they're anti-Jackson. Okay? How do we feel about the bank? I've just made you depressed about money, right? But what did Jackson do to cause this panic? He removed the money out of where? The bank. He put the money where? Pet banks. What did the pet banks loan out on? Land and internal improvements. Did they ever get that money back? For banks to get money back, what do they have to call in? Loans. Okay, what we're going to look at next is this timeline. Okay, I'm going to pause this because it's